Well, belong to another episode of the Toon Under podcast. It's a slightly more upbeat podcast tonight than we've had for the last week or so. Great win for Newcastle today, so we're going to talk about that. 3-0 against Fulham. I'm Jack in Brisbane. I've got Craig in Mackay. How are you, Craigie?
Over the moon, mate, with that result. Absolutely fantastic way to start the week, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It certainly was a nice Saturday night, Sunday morning for us. Dimi, both of your teams have won 3-0 this weekend so far. It's been a pretty good weekend for you. Which has been your favourite 3-0?
It's like picking between children, isn't it? It's very hard to decide when the victories. But obviously, yeah, it was a big win in Melbourne for victory, and then obviously last night against Fulham. It was good to get the result because we'll go through it in a sec. But it just had the hallmarks of one of those games that it was going to be a scrappy game and we'll struggle to score. There may be a controversy or a late chance. So I'm glad it ended up being a comfortable win and we could sort of relax the last 20 minutes and not stress out.
Yeah, I was convinced this was going to just be like a 1-1, a bit like the Bournemouth game last season, where it'd just be scrappy. We might get ahead, then they might come back into it, or we might scrape an equaliser. It just had that feeling of a game like that. Fulham last season. Fulham quite often give us a decent game, like the come up and the play some good football. I just felt I wasn't necessarily expecting for this game. I worried there was going to be a bit of a hangover from the Champions League. So it's very good that didn't happen. But Craig, how did you feel going into this one? Did you think it was going to be like a hangover, or did you trust them that they would put what happened midweek behind them and be fully ready for this game?
Well, I kind of based it on the result in France a few weeks ago in Paris, where obviously had the disappointment of that penalty right at the death, the penalty that should never have been, obviously, and use that rage, angst, and frustration to take it out on Man United like we did back then. And I think we kind of done the same against Fulham, because Man United that first half, we created a lot of chances, but we didn't put anything away. Second half is when everything all came together. Again, similar type of script to the Fulham game, you know?
I don't know if you remember last season after the Carling Cup semi-final where we had West Ham at home just after that. And we took the lead in that West Ham game and it looked like it was going to go great. But then the place just got a bit flat. Like I think all of the emotion and all of the energy that had gone into the semi-final kind of, I think that caught up with the players in that West Ham game and it ended up in a draw. And I thought maybe something like that, could happen again, even though it wasn't positive emotion from Wednesday night. But 3-0, Dimi, what a good result. Like I think it was comfortable in the end, and we will talk about it, but you can't ask for much more, can you, really, backing up from the Champions League?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, obviously there was extenuating circumstances which we'll go through in terms of the brain fade from Jimenez, but yeah, to score 3 goals and keep a clean sheet virtually for the last 35 minutes, it was us in first gear, and only when we really wanted to attack, or if Callum Wilson had the ball anywhere near the goal, he was trying to score. Everyone else was just trying to conserve energy. You could just see Eddie Howe. He kept screaming at Bruno, just like, calm down. Like, don't do anything stupid for the last 20 minutes. Just save yourself. And probably ended up helping us because we didn't probably have that much left in us in the last half an hour, but it turns out we got the goals early enough. So, yeah, 3-0 is a perfect result considering we copped 7 goals in the last 2 Premier League games against Spurs and Everton. Not that our goal difference was bad, but copped a bit of a hit. So to get 3 goals back was very good.
Yeah, the home form's incredible. Like I think that's 8 wins out of 9 now. Craig, we're going to actually go through all of those results a bit later, but what's the difference? Why is there such a big discrepancy, Craig, do you think, between playing at home and playing away, where we really do look like a completely different team?
I don't know, because the side isn't, as of right now, that much different from what it was last season. And last season, our away form was fantastic. It was one of the best in the league, hence why we finished 4th, you know. But I'd kind of put my finger on as to where it's gone wrong. We had that one amazing win at Sheffield United, but everyone seems to be winning that at the minute. But the games at Man City, Brighton, and so on, they're against tough opposition. But the likes of Bournemouth, we probably should be going there, at least getting a point. I mean, no one deserves to go to anywhere in the Premier League and just expects to win. That's just wrong. But going to Bournemouth, getting a point. Everton, we gifted them two goals. We should have hopefully got something from that one if the mistakes weren't kicking around. But I don't know whether it's fatigue, whether it's just travelling, coming back from the Champions League and then going to Merseyside, going wherever, going down to the South Coast. I wonder if it's just too much for a lot of the players over a very short period of time. Maybe the homesickness, whatever's kicking in, who knows,
Yeah, and I think clubs are intimidated by St James's Park as well now. The record's so strong. I think they're turning up and just thinking they'll be lucky to get any kind of result. And once we get in front, the crowd get into it. It sounded like the crowd were really good today, actually, on the TV. I don't know. I haven't actually heard much about what it was like, but it did sound like it was a really good atmosphere. So even when we weren't winning, so that was obviously it helped when what happened with the local boy coming on and Big Dan Burn got his goal as well. So we'll get into that. But I did think the atmosphere sounded quite good. Next away games against Luton, and we pass our wishes on to Tom Lockyer. Absolutely, yes. That's terrible. What's happened? That's the third time he's had an incident like that on the pitch. So it was really it does put everything into perspective a bit. Really, like I saw that game was interrupted, and I wondered what had gone on. And you go onto the social media, and you fear the worst really when that happens. So all of our wishes go to him because that's it's very serious. It sounds like he's okay, or he was at least responsive in hospital. So it's every well wishes to him. Hope he has a good recovery. Let's have a look at our lineup then. There was a couple of changes from the Milan game. We actually can make changes now, which we couldn't a few weeks ago. So Big Dan Burn came in for his first start since he got injured. He came in for Trippier, and he went in at left back initially. Longstaff came in for Miley. Good to see Longstaff start again. I think the stat was he's only lost 3 of his last 34 league games that he started. Yeah. So it shows how important he is. There wasn't any Isak on the bench, which I guess is a bit of a concern. But Big Sven was back on the bench. Craig, thoughts on the lineup and thoughts on Big Sven being back in among the subs? It's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, the Rolls Royce has been to where the garage, he's had his MOT, he's had a good service, and he's back and ready to go. We all know what he's capable of. He's absolute man-mountain of a defender, and easily our best defender on his day. So absolutely amazed to see him back. I was a little bit disappointed for Miley not getting the nod. I understand Longstaff is far more experienced in this type of game, especially coming after the emotion of the Champions League exit. So maybe that was a correct call by Eddie. But I was a bit disappointed for him. But otherwise, it's the lineup I think everybody would have picked given the level of fitness and everything like that we've got,
Yeah, and it's like Dan Burns said in the interview afterwards, Miley hadn't exactly been dropped. He just came out for Longstaff. He hadn't done anything wrong at all. It's just he's 17. He's playing. He'd started the last 6 games or whatever it was. So, and look at the impact he made when he came on as well. So, Dimi, I'm interested in Lewis Hall. I think we spoke about this a bit last week, but you think about it, you've got like Livramento has been the first choice left back recently. Byrne was first choice left back before that. Matt Targett's there as well. He's injured still, but I don't know. Is something going on with Lewis Hall? Because there's been a bit of talk about this. Do we think that it's just that he's not doing enough in training, or do you think there's anything in this idea that there might be? It could be to do with his clause, or we don't want to trigger his appearances, because Eddie actually said on his press conference that he wasn't sure whether we were going to sign him permanently, which seems a bit strange because everyone seemed to think it was going to happen. So do you think there's something going on, Dimi, that we're not sure about with Lewis Hall, or do you just think it's a case of he's just not, he's not training well enough and he just can't get in the team at the moment?
Yeah, I don't think there's any funny business going on with him, to be honest. I think listening to that press conference in full from Eddie, he looked to the press officer. He sort of was trying to say, I can't say too much about this situation. Obviously, there's clauses about when it gets triggered or when it doesn't. I reckon a lot of it might be as well when the money gets paid by us. So it might be if he plays a certain amount of games before a certain date, we have to pay the money by this date, but if he plays it by a next date, we might pay it later. So it could be all down to when the money gets paid by us. In terms of why he's not playing, I mean, it's clear at the moment that Eddie doesn't see or doesn't trust him as a first 11 player in this team yet. He's happy to play Tino half out of position. Obviously, Dan Burn is going to be ahead of him when he comes back. And then we'll talk about it when the change was made, when Schar went off. He wasn't the one to come on to play at left back. Tino actually went to play at left back, and then Kraft came on to play at right back. So I think it's all down to trust factor with Eddie. And he does take sometimes he does take time for getting those new players to come in. And Lewis Hall's still a young kid. And if you remember last season, Gordon wasn't starting a lot of games when he first came in. He was a $40-odd million signing player. So it can happen, and he's just going to have to bide his time. I'm sure he's going to be, if not next season, in the seasons to come, our future left back, and he's shown glimpses. But at this stage, he's not. According to Eddie, he's not our best option, and I think we've said many times before, if Eddie thinks he's not our best option, then I'm happy to trust what Eddie thinks.
Absolutely. I think the fact that we won this so convincingly in the end meant that these questions were not as strong as they would have been, because there has been a bit of a clamour for Lewis Hall to start in the same way there was, a few months ago about Livramento as well. So there always has to be someone, doesn't there, or something that the fans get themselves excited about or worried about, as the case might be. But I didn't actually think about that in terms of maybe it is appearances before January and we have to buy him in January, or appearances after that, then it's next summer, which is going to affect FFP. So it could be that again. It's all guesswork, isn't it? Nobody actually knows unless you're in the club. Yeah, let's talk about the injuries again now then before we get into the game itself. Craig, what's happened? Somebody's put a curse, haven't they, on Newcastle United, or there's someone with a voodoo doll somewhere stabbing our players, because both Schar and Joelinton went off in the first half. It's just never ending, isn't it, at the moment?
I reckon someone's took a piss on the wheels of that gypsy that used to be at top of the big market, and and just basically put a hex somewhere or something like that. Basically, every player is going to get injured at some point in the season. I think we've had 14 injuries so far, maybe even more than that, which is absolutely batshit when you think about it. But yeah, Schar was rumoured to not even be fit to start this game. There was doing the rumours on around on social media. Maybe that was the case. Maybe he was a late addition to the squad. I suppose we'll never know. Maybe it was tweaked earlier on. But yeah, he went off very early in the game. And the one thing, I guess, if he knows he's potentially injured, why is he making those long forward and runs if he knows he's maybe got a tweaked hammy or anything like that? Just play it short, keep it simple, let it stretch itself out or anything. But he went down pretty convincingly. And yeah, it was quite frustrating to see, because I think everyone expected Botman to come on. But I think that was maybe a little bit too early for him, even for him. But and then the Joelinton one, he went off with a dead arse cheek, apparently. That's where someone put in the injury is to his glute, which is your arse cheeks. So yeah, he's got a dead arse cheek. So that should be an okay thing. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
I don't think either of them are long term. I think Eddie said they're both probably just precautionary. Joelinton was in the photo at the end, and he was walking. I've seen the video of the players coming back into the dressing room, and he was there looking fine. So maybe it's not as bad as what it looked like it might be, losing, because they're two key players. I think Schar had played every minute of every game up until that point. Kraft came on, had a really good game. So Burn came into the centre back, Kraft went to right back, and Tino went back to left back. It was good. It's good to see Kraft coming in. He kind of played like he did when he was filling in for Trippier a couple of seasons ago. And Dan Burn back into what is probably his natural position in centre backs. Nothing really to be too concerned about. Of course, Miley came on, so he got over a half, and we'll talk about his moment in a minute. But the main moment of the first half was the red card. I don't know what Raul Jimenez was. He was pissed off because he felt like he'd been elbowed just before that by Lascelles. So, Dimi, you can take us through this one. Do you think that Lascelles had done anything wrong with his challenge? And then what do you think Raul Jimenez was doing, jumping into Longstaff's head with his arse?
So on the first one, I definitely think Lascelles caught him. I don't think it's a red card. It probably is a foul and potentially a yellow card, but I don't think there's a violent swinging action that he's trying to hurt Jimenez. He's sort of trying to feel him out, and he ends up catching him. Jimenez rolled around like a pork chop, A, because he was trying to get Lascelles sent off, and B, he has a history of head injuries as well, so he probably feared the worst when he copped one on the head. But as soon as he got back on the pitch when the referee allowed him, you could just tell that he was steaming. And I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. And then he's tried to say, "Oh, I couldn't pull out of the challenge." So the ball's come across. Longstaff has played it. Would have been about 15 seconds later, maybe about 3 seconds later. He's just come in with a jump off his feet and a hip and shoulder. If you're an Aussie watching this show, you'll know what hip and shoulder is. That's an AFL term, but sort of he's bumped him right in the head. Would have been 3 or 4 weeks suspension in AFL. And he's very lucky, Longstaff, that he didn't either break a cheekbone or break his jaw. And he was able to walk away and live to tell the tale. But that is a definition of dangerous play. And to be honest, it was a game that we probably needed a little bit of luck. We didn't have, I don't think we had 90 minutes of quality football in us, especially after that result on Wednesday. We probably needed someone to either, I don't know, force the issue or do something magical or a mistake from the other team. And Fulham have done that to us twice in 2 seasons. They helped us last year when we were on a bad run. I think it was 4 or 5 draws in a row. And then they ended up getting a red card, I think, 10 minutes in, and we ended up winning 4-0 or 4-1. So that sort of started our run last season, if you guys remember at the start of the year.
Yeah.
So they've helped us out again here with Jimenez with a shocking tackle, a shocking challenge. But he has no complaints. I'm not sure the referee saw it properly live. That's probably why he gave him a yellow. He probably thought, oh, he's just late. He didn't really hit him high. But as soon as you could see he's bumped him with his shoulder in the head, 4 seconds after the ball's been cleared, yeah, there's no way other than that's a red card.
Yeah, it was just stupid. Like, I don't know what he wasn't really thinking clear, was he? That was the problem. So it was interesting with VAR. So the referee has, do you think, Craig, referees, because this was a bit of an inexperienced referee as well. I hadn't actually heard of him before. Do you think referees are giving decisions knowing that they can go and check? They might get sent to the monitor to actually check it, because VAR was just going to be for clear and obvious errors. So, but I think referees, especially inexperienced refs, are maybe thinking, "Oh, I'll give it the safe decision, and then if there is a problem with it, I'm not 100% sure, I'll get sent to the monitor, and then I can change it." But when he went to the monitor, he was always going to change it, I think, wasn't he? But what did you make of the VAR intervention in this one, Craig?
It was justified because obviously the decision was correct. It was pretty much assault on Longstaff's face. I'm surprised he didn't have a concussion from it or anything like that. But yeah, it was definitely the right decision. The way the ref handled it, I thought he'd done quite well. The only thing he didn't do is tell the Fulham players to piss off, because they were all staring at the monitor and they could see everything that the ref could see. And Jimenez knew straight away, as soon as the ref turned around, he was off. He was already walking back to the changing rooms before the red card was out of his pocket. But I do think the ref needs to take control of the situation, tell the players to go off to the side so they can't see the monitor, or even just back up a good 10, 15 feet, whatever it may be. But in terms of playing the safety role, like you just said, I do think that is something the younger ones may be doing. Whether I'll give a yellow, okay. If I get it wrong, then so we overturn to a red. But if I give a red, it seems like it's a harsh decision, and it could get overturned to a yellow, which then puts me in the bad light. But the other way, it's not so bad in terms of his reputation or anything, because he's then used the powers above him to get the correct decision, rather than they overturn his decision in a bad way.
I wonder if they're actually marked down for it, though, because technically what they're saying is they've made an error. Like the VAR is saying you've made an error here. It should have been a red card. So I wonder if referees are actually marked down. But it definitely does seem to be a thing that inexperienced refs know they've got that safety net. So, and I think this is something Keith Hackett, who we had on, has been saying a bit. Like, he thinks that it makes young referees too comfortable to be able to use VAR. But it worked in our favor in this instance. I think it was the force that he hit his face with.
Yeah.
Like you looked at that side angle, and he absolutely, like you said, he's lucky he didn't have a concussion or something. His neck, his head, absolutely went flying back, and he was nowhere near the ball. So I think it was reckless, definitely. And I agree, Dimi. I think we needed this, or we might have won anyway, but it would have been a lot harder. And Jimenez has been in good form as well. So that was the red card, and then the rest of the half, Gordon hit the bar, but Fulham did show a bit on the break. Iwobi had a decent chance. Half time, it's 0-0. Craig, what's your thoughts at half time?
Again, similar to where the Man United game, or grounding out opportunities, but nothing clear cut. When Gordon hit the ball in it landed Longstaff's feet or bounced off his shins, one of the two. I don't know why it looked like his feet were in quicksand or anything. He just did not react quick enough. All it took was just one little flick of his ankle, and that ball would have been in the back of the net. And then we would have went in at the break a lot happier. There's always that tension around St. James's Park and around us when we go 0-0 with any game, regardless of who the opposition is. You just never know what's going to happen. But second half started, and it was literally night and day in terms of how we approached the second half to the first.
Yeah, and Eddie said afterwards that he knew we were going to get chances in the second half. So it was probably just a matter of taking them, which we haven't always been the most clinical. And Wilson, like you said before, Dimi was trying his very hardest to score a goal. He would have been good if he didn't score one. But what a moment though for Lewis Miley. Dimi, he said this guy's 17 and he's just scored at the Gallagher end. He is the youngest Premier League goal scorer for Newcastle. The thing about him, like, when usually, I think I've said this a few weeks ago, usually when you get young players bursting onto the scene, it's like wingers or strikers or something who are quick, who can just beat everybody else with pace, or they're like a freak like Wayne Rooney, you know? But Miley's not really that quick, but he just seems to have so much intelligence, football intelligence. He retains the ball. He gets into good positions. He had another shot, I think, before he scored as well in this game. There's no point, is there, Dimi, in us not just getting excited now about Lewis Miley? Like his performances over the last few weeks have just been excellent against very, very good teams. He's come off the bench in this one and affected the game, and he's got his goal, which he took absolutely brilliantly. He's just he seems to just have it all, doesn't he, Dimi? And what a moment. And what this is just the icing on the cake for him after he's the story of the last few months, really, as well as the injuries. His rise has been the story. What a moment, Dimi.
Oh, it was a special moment. I mean, at the Gallagher end, the game's at 0-0. It's in the balance. We're sort of chasing that goal, needed goal. We're playing against 10 men, and his composure to finish is fantastic. I mean, spare a thought for Bruno. He was sensational to get the ball to him. Bruno beat about 3 or 4 players and sort of just bulldozed the ball into Miley's path. But I mean, this kid, I don't think I've seen a midfielder with as much poise and class at his age. I don't think ever at Newcastle. And I watch a lot of football around the world, and there's not many 17-year-olds who carry themselves the way he does. And his trajectory is rapidly not going on a steady incline, a very, very quick incline. And if he keeps going on this trajectory, I would not put it past. It's a big call, but I would not put it past Gareth Southgate having a chat to him before the Euros and thinking, geez, if this kid's playing week in, week out for Newcastle and playing as well as he is, I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't be pushing like other, let's call, lesser name players playing in the London clubs who get games after 2 good performances. I think Miley, if he keeps playing the way he is going to head that way. He's just class. I mean, he doesn't look out of place. If you didn't know he was 17, you'd think he's been playing for 10 years in the Premier League. And his body as well, which is one thing which probably helps him. He's very physically developed for his age, and he doesn't get pushed off the ball, and he's not shy to receive the ball. A lot of young kids don't want to see the ball. They like having their one-on-one dribbles, or they have their strike near the box, but he receives the balls in tight positions. He's happy to keep the ball and move it. He's just, I mean, it's hard to describe how good this kid is, and you can see that what it meant for Bruno as well when Miley scores. I mean, the joy on Bruno's face is almost how every other Geordie felt as that goal went in. And I think Bruno's spoke fantastically about him previously, but if Bruno at his quality sees how good this guy is, I think we've all got to stand up and notice that this kid is the real deal.
He really is, and it's his positioning, isn't it? Which is a sign of his intelligence, which led to him getting that goal, because he was just there. All he needed to do was stick it in. But it wasn't that easy finish either. He was kicking it and it was going away from the goalkeeper, so he had to really get it inside the post. Bruno, I think I saw a stat that Bruno won 9 duels in this game. I think 4 of them were in that move. He just got the ball and he just, like you said, he just bulldozed through. And we'll talk about him in a minute as well. But Craig, I'll let you have a word for Lewis Miley, because you've been talking about him. You said he was going to be Peter Beardsley before he'd even played in the first team. So
yeah,
you've got to be pretty pleased with what you've seen.
Oh, genuine. I've never cheered a first goal for anybody like that since God knows when. As it was probably maybe 12 months ago, even longer, we started talking about players coming through the academy. It was just the emergence of Anderson and maybe others that could follow, and Miley's name was the one that was being touted. And I'd seen a few videos on the Newcastle Twitter feed where he'd been playing for the under-21s, the England under-21s, and so on. And he was just head and shoulders above the quality on the pitch. He was literally men against boys when he was playing. And I did make the comment that he could be the next Beardsley or Gaza in terms of the name, skill, coming from the area, playing in midfield, that type of thing. And he genuinely could really be on that level. It's scary to think about, because we do produce some fantastic players from this area. And even of recent memory, you've got the likes of Carrick. He obviously never came through the Newcastle Academy, but he's from the area. He's probably the biggest name in the midfield to come from the Northeast in the last, maybe 15, 20 years. I can remember. But I do see Miley going to that level. And I do actually see him eclipsing whatever Carrick did in terms of a player, maybe not in achievements. But his football ability, his footballing brain is simply outstanding. And the commentator at the end of the game summed it up better. Lewis Miley is 17 going on 27. It is genuinely phenomenal how developed he is. And it's not like he's 18 tomorrow either. He's 18 May next year. So he's still a baby-faced kid. And even in his interview, it sounded like he was having an interview with his teacher for like a Parents' Day or something like that. It was absolutely fantastic to see. Fresh-faced, Geordie talent, scoring at the Gallagher end, something we've all dreamt of as kids, and he's gone and done it. He's living the dream. Couldn't be happier for the kid.
He's not shy on the pitch, but he certainly is in front of a camera. And it's quite endearing the way he sort of like doesn't kind of know what to say.
Yeah.
And I know it's the kind of the done thing when you get a young player like this is to say, oh, let's keep the feet on the ground. Let's not get too excited. Fuck that. Like, let's just get excited about him, because he's absolutely amazing. Like, you can't support a club like this and not get excited about a player like this. And he will keep his feet on the ground, because he's got the right manager for that. He probably will come in and out of the team, and that's fine. That's where he should be in his development. But any ideas about him going out on loan ever, I think, not going to happen. He's part of the first team squad now. He's too good. And it's the funny start about him was he was 13 when COVID lockdown, the first COVID lockdown, which just makes you realize how young he is. I love that. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And the thing as well is about these young players. Previously with this club, you've just known that as soon as a big bid comes in, then they're going to be on the way. That's happened down the years, even before I can remember. I can't really remember Gaza at Newcastle, Chris Waddle, Peter Beardsley first time round. When a big bid comes in or a big club, then they go. It happened with Carroll, most notably. That's not going to happen this time, unless Real Madrid want to sign him in 4 or 5 years or something. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere. If our trajectory matches his, so he could be with us for this whole rise, and it's going to be very special to see. And I think he's just surpassed what we thought he would be doing at this stage of his career. Yeah. And what an important goal! What an important goal, because it set us on the way to the win. It wasn't long after that it was 2-0. Even Miggy couldn't miss from from about 4 yards out. But this was a really nice move in the midfield. Gordon was really good, as he has been a lot recently. But Dimi, it was good move through the middle, wasn't it? Tried to play it through to Wilson, who was might have been fouled, and the ball sort of bobbled through, and there was Miggy on his left foot to put it into the corner. Game over at that point, wasn't it, Dimi?
Yeah, you'd think so. With 10 men, the second goal was going to be key, and as soon as we got that, it was curtains for Fulham. But it was a wonderful move by Gordon. I really like when he cuts inside and finds those passes. He's done it a few times, and he's got that quality in his locker that he can. He's not just a winger where he's going to beat his fullback and then get the crossing. He can drift inside and make that little move. And the goal we scored against AC Milan, he drifted inside and he started the move where we spread the ball out wide to Miley, who cut it back for Big Joe. So he's got that in his locker, and it was a beautiful ball. Wilson just about timed his run. It was close to being offside, but luckily VAR was on our side that time. And I'm not sure whether the ref would have called a penalty. I think by the look of his arm, he was saying advantage. So I'm pretty sure if Miggy had somehow concocted to miss that chance, it would have been a penalty. I'm sure Wilson would have been very happy about that because he was willing to steal anyone's goal yesterday. But it was an important goal for Miggy as well after he missed that virtual sitter last week against Milan. It was good to see that he scored a goal and got back on the goal scoring charts.
Yeah, he's got a nice habit, Miggy, hasn't he, Craig, of basically shutting people up when they come out the woodwork, and it doesn't take much for them to come out and start going at Miggy. He gets a lot of criticism, and fair enough, his output in terms of goals and assists is probably not what you want. You know, it's not at the level consistently that you want from somebody who's in one of those three attacking positions. But he does have a habit of popping up with important goals when it matters now. And it was a nice moment, wasn't it, Craig? He looked very pleased with himself after he put that one in.
He did. I think the only person that wasn't pleased inside St James's was Callum Wilson.
Yes.
It was a well-taken goal because the ball was bobbling up to him as well. He could have fluffed it. He could have skied it, put it wide, whatever. And Miggy being Miggy, you don't know which Miggy's going to turn up on the day. He could very well have done so. But now, look, he hit the back of the net. 2-0 up, game's over with. And it's well-timed second goal because it just puts them to bed. And I think from then on, it was almost damage limitations for them. How many can we not concede now? And hopefully see the game out and keep the scoreline respectable.
Yeah, and it meant that we could make a couple of changes, which I think might have come after the third goal, actually. But yeah, it was kind of a procession from then, and that's what we need, I think. After this run we've had, where it's been so intense, we've been losing games. The other games have been close. Like, I think we needed this cushion, and it was a big relief for everyone that we could do that. Fulham weren't really showing much ambition at that point. Like you said, it was more of a damage limitation exercise for them. But Bruno just capped his performance off, and let's be fair, he was brilliant in the second half. Like, he's done this. He does this quite regularly where he knows he's the best player. So he just gets on the ball. He starts making things happen. He does it against weaker teams as well at St James's Park a lot. I remember talking about him lots of times in these heavy wins we've had where he just starts playing football in a way that nobody else is on the pitch. He was on set piece duty for this game with Trippier out, so he took a free kick on the side after Kraft had nutmegged Dico Overreed. That was nice. Probably Kraft's best moment. And then it came to Miggy, who actually had a right-footed shot, which was on target. So he can't actually use his right foot, which I don't think anybody thought he could. Came back out to Bruno, and the cross he put in, I listened to Shay Given on Match of the Day, and he said it reminded him of Nobby Solano, that outside of the right foot cross, right onto Big Dan Burns' head. The very annoying thing about this goal is Bruno doesn't even get an assist because the keeper saved the first effort. Came back to Dan Burn and he bundled it in. Another Geordie scoring, Dimi. Another nice moment. Definitely game over at this point. But what about Bruno's performance?
Oh, he was sensational. You could tell even in the first half he wanted the ball every single time. He was the one who was trying to make it happen. He knew that we've got a lot of soldiers down, and he was going to be the one that that had to make something happen. And by anything in that second half, he was going to get us the win. And that first goal was epitome of that in terms of him just barging through 3 or 4 players and setting up Miley. But yeah, the cross just shows his quality. I mean, for a guy who came to the Premier League as a supposed number 6 defensive midfielder, his quality on the ball he's still got that Brazilian flair, joga bonito inside of him, and to play that outside of the boot cross was sensational. And I mean, Dan Burn's starting to score goals with his head these days. It's last year he could not score a goal with his head, but he scored a couple this year, which is nice to see, and he should be dominating aerial contests. So it was good that Burn got on the score sheet as well as a local lad, as a long time out he has been as well. So that's a good return for him. But yeah, Bruno, he's the epitome of a spiritual leader. He may not be the captain for us, but he is the spiritual leader. When he plays well and he is on his game, we generally win every time.
Yeah. He's the best player we've got. Like he's one of the best midfielders in the league. So when he is playing like that, and he sometimes does struggle against just because when the team's struggling against the best teams, the game doesn't pass him by, but he just doesn't have the same impact, which is just natural when he's playing against a better team. But there's no reason why Bruno, if he wants to stay around for this whole next 5-6 years, whatever, why he couldn't be part of that. Like he could be an integral part of that if he wants to be. If he wants to play in the Champions League and we're not in the Champions League, then he might go to Real Madrid, Barcelona, anyone. He could fit in any team in the world. We're so lucky to have him playing for us at the moment. And what a player for Lewis Miley to learn from as well. He seems to have, like you said, taken him under his wing a bit. He was saying at the end he's very proud of him. It's like,
yeah.
Whenever you hear Bruno talk about Newcastle, he's just like, he makes you well up, doesn't it? He's just so emotional and so happy about it. And I think it's genuine with him as well. Even if he does leave at some point, I fully believe, Craig, that he loves the Toon, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He'll get the send-off like Keegan did in the helicopter, I'd imagine, if the time comes. And I think he'd go with everyone's blessing as well, because he's give everything to this club and we've give everything back to him. And the feeling is mutual. We love him, he loves us. And we are just blessed to have players like him. I remember when he first came in, I kind of compared him to Johan Cabaye. But now he's well and truly surpassed anything Cabaye was capable of at the club by a country mile. And he's probably the best midfielder we've had since the turn of the century. I can't think of anyone better before him. Yeah, he's just that goddamn good. And he is the mechanism that keeps that clock ticking in midfield, and he's superb. Long may
Brilliant
stay.
footballer. You've mentioned Callum Wilson, Dimi. He was absolutely desperate to get on the score sheet. Hit the post towards the end.
Hungry.
As well. There was one moment where he could have laid Matt Ritchie off for a good chance, but no way. He was not going to lay the ball off, and Ritchie was raging with him. But what did you make of his performance overall, Dimi? It's good to have him back in the team.
Yeah, I think he got better as the game went on. I think first half he was a little bit not all over the place, but he was a little bit off it. But he did get better as the game went on, as Fulham tied and got a bit deeper. But yeah, I was a bit, to be honest. Obviously, you want to see strikers wanting to score goals. There was some moments there in the second half that, I mean, Ritchie was wide open for that one, and Ritchie, if Ritchie had his time again, I reckon Ritchie might have 2-footed Wilson, because he was ready to lose his shit at that time. Because Ritchie knows he's not going to get a goal maybe ever again for Newcastle. That could be his last chance to score a goal. So, look, we need Wilson in the team now. Isaac, like Eddie said, Isaac is working his way back to 100% fitness, and we were right not to risk him this morning, because he's been playing 5 games in 15 days out of necessity because no one else is there. So now that Wilson's back, it's important, but I'd like to see him maybe be a little bit less hungry when better players are in position. But that's okay. He'll get his sharpness back, and hopefully he gets that back this coming week.
And it does happen with him where it takes maybe a few games to actually get back into the swing, doesn't it? It happened last season around the cup final. He was not having a good time, and then he went and scored 18 goals in the last 2 months. So a big part of that was the rotation, though. Like, we know that his body can't handle 3, even 2 football matches a week, really. So maybe that means Isak will come in for the Chelsea game and they can start hopefully rotating and they can both stay fit. Because if they can, that's going to go a long way to helping us push back for the top 4. Full time, let's have a look at the home form then. This is the last 7 league games after obviously we beat Villa first, then Liverpool beat us. And then that Brentford game was massive. The 1-0 against Brentford was a huge win. So there was that. Then there was 2-0 against Burnley, 4-0 against Crystal Palace, 1-0 against Arsenal, 4-1 against Chelsea, 1-0 against Man United, and now 3-0 against Fulham. 7 games in a row won. I think it's the first time we've done that for something like, it was a long time. I can't remember what it was. Only 1 goal conceded. It's looking pretty good, isn't it, Craig, at St James's Park? And we touched on it before. The home form is really something to be very proud of at the moment.
Yeah, it's not the fact that we're actually scoring goals, it's the fact that we're not conceding them as well. That is always going to be key to winning games, obviously. But 1 goal conceded in all that time frame, especially when you consider we haven't effectively had our strongest defence as well. Then we've come across likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, who have got very potent goal scorers in their squad, albeit probably not firing at full speed right now. But yeah, our home form is what's keeping us where we are on the table. Long may that continue. It is vital to top 6 finish this season. I think our away form will probably drag us down a place or 2 come the end of the season, unless that picks up dramatically, which hopefully we'll do against Luton. But yeah, our home form is key, and nobody is liking the idea of coming to St James's Park, regardless whether it's top of the table Liverpool right now, or whether it's bottom of the table Burnley, or wherever it may be at the minute. Nobody is going to want to come to see us at the minute.
Yeah, and we've got Forest next at home as well, so that should be, you'd hope that'd be another win.
Yeah.
The league table, so we've gone up to 6th. We spoke last week, Dimi, about how if we can stay around this 5th, 6th kind of area, then that'd be good. The home form is allowing us to do that, as Craig's just said. But let's have a look at I just want to look at the other fixtures of the other teams around us. I think Man United and Brighton and Spurs are kind of the ones that we can look at the moment. The teams who are around us or kind of within distance. Man United keep leapfrogging us to go above us, which is just ridiculous considering how bad they are. Brighton seem to be coping all right with Europe, but Brighton are playing Arsenal away tonight, and Man United are at Liverpool, which could be a cricket score. Hopefully, is a cricket score against Man United. And then next week we've got Luton away. Brighton go to Palace, Man United go to West Ham, and Spurs play Everton. So there's some pretty tricky games in there for them. And then the week after that, we've got Forest at home. Man United have got Villa at home, and Brighton actually plays Spurs. So I think if we can get another 6 points from the next 2 games, we could be up. In fact, we would actually be above Man City because we play twice before they play again because they're going to Saudi for the Club World Cup or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's actually looking like we could be, pushing back up there, Dimi, up into the 4th, 5th positions, and that's where we want to be, isn't it? If we can get that, and if we can get this a bit of a gap between Man United and Brighton, West Ham and Chelsea, that's what we want. We want to get that gap and keep looking up, don't we?
Yeah, you've summed it up well. That's the striking distance we want to keep in. It's probably top 4 is the dream, is the ultimate probably aim especially from Eddie Howe and the team. But at this stage with the squad that we've got, we've just got to keep in touch. And if we can keep picking up points, I mean, I don't know how Man United are that close to us, but they got a couple of tough games coming up. They'll probably drop those and we'll extend that gap. But if we can stay within probably 2 games or 2 and a bit games of the top 4, it's going to lead us, I think, in a good chance in the second half of the season to really go up that table. Because if you look at everyone above us, besides Spurs, are going to have European football coming up, and Liverpool, Aston Villa are going to have Thursday to Sunday European football. So there definitely could be a chance that we could get some points back on Villa and really close that gap to the top 4. And it's amazing that we're this close, to be fair, with the run of injuries that we've had. So it is important to get a couple of wins. I just hope we're not going to lose any more players in the next couple of games. And that the one thing that annoys me about the Premier League is the 2 games in 3 days. I've never understood why games are played like Christmas Eve and then Boxing Day. I'm not sure what that achieves to play 2 games in 3 days, more than just getting more money and more gate receipts. it can't be good for any professional footballer to play 2 games in 3 days with Christmas Day in between. So they're going to be 2, even though they're 2 probably winnable fixtures, they're going to be 2 very difficult fixtures for us with our injuries. But we are right in that mix, and we're doing very well to keep in touch with that top 5 teams.
And January does get a bit harder in terms of fixtures. We've got Liverpool away, Man City at home, and Villa away. But there's a big gap between, I think it's the Liverpool game and the Villa, or the City game and the Liverpool game. There's a big gap because there's like a winter break thing where the game we split over 2 weeks. We do have the FA Cup, of course, in the small matter of the game against Sunderland. And if we beat Chelsea in the Cup, then the Carabao Cup game semi-finals will be in January as well. We'll have a quick. We'll touch on that game now. Then, so Premier League. Forget about the Premier League for a week or so. That's what you got to do. You've got to play the game in the competition you're in, and then forget all about it when we play another game in another competition. So we are playing Chelsea on a nice 6 a.m. Wednesday morning kickoff for us, Craig. That's not too bad. Dimi, you'll be driving to work. Don't crash your car.
I'll try not to.
The other fixtures, you've got Everton against Fulham, Port Vale against Middlesbrough, and then Liverpool against West Ham. So they're the Carabao Cup quarter-final games. Craig, what's your thoughts ahead of this Chelsea game? Do you think that we need to be going all out for this, or do you think we want to be resting players if we can for the Luton game? Or, what do you think? It's a quarter-final, isn't it? It's a pretty big deal, really.
It is. If this was third round tie or anything like that, I think, play the kids. If we get through, then so be it. But this late in the tournament, go for it. Chelsea, they'll want to try and win it because there's no way they're getting into Europe through the league. Absolutely no chance. So they're going to put out some decent players, you'd think. They've got a squad bigger than anybody else in the league as well. So they've got the players to do that, whereas we don't really. So we're going to have a few fatigue players in there. But I think we should absolutely go for it. Chelsea, as we know, they are beatable, as we found out a few weeks ago when we tortured them 4-1. Lewis Hall obviously can't play. He's ineligible, which brings on, well, I don't know why he didn't get a bit more game time today based on that situation alone. But I'd imagine it's pretty much going to be the same starting lineup, but with maybe Isak up top rather than Wilson.
Yeah, Chelsea had a 2-0 win against Sheffield United. They were 0-0 at half-time. I haven't seen highlights, so I don't know how that game went. But Dimi, you were talking about this game in the chat the other day. What do you think the approach is going to be for this? And what do you think the approach should be? Do you think, what's your thoughts on how we're going to approach it?
Yeah, because it's a quarterfinal, like Craig said, I'd be going all out for this game. Chelsea have one of the worst home records in the Premier League. They're virtually opposite to us in terms of our away form being poor. Their home record is poor, and they've just been a poor team for probably 2 seasons now. So they may have the names, they've got the big fancy players on the bench, and they've got the glitz and glamour, but they're not a team like us. So the only thing that's going to stop us from winning this game, in my opinion, is if we don't put out the team capable to win the game. If there's players injured or if there's players that fatigued that we just cannot give the effort. So for me, Eddie's got a tough call because after the Chelsea game, we then got obviously Luton on the weekend, and then 2 days later we got Forest. So it's you're caught between a rock and a hard place at this stage. But the fact that I think Schar and Joelinton went off injured, I think that makes it easy for him to leave those 2 guys out at the very least and freshen up those 2 positions. So at least we've got a few more fresh sharp bodies coming into the 11. And like Craig said, you win that game and your 2 games, you're a 2-legged tie away from Wembley again. And if luck goes our way and we don't draw another tough cup,
it'll be Liverpool. Let's be honest, it will be Liverpool.
Yeah. And look, maybe they get knocked out by West Ham as well, and then it's wide open. But look, yeah, luck would have it, we'd probably get Liverpool even if we did get through. But we'd cross that bridge when that comes. It's more so that we haven't won a trophy for God knows 50 years. So any chance at a trophy we need to take, and Chelsea is a team that are beatable. So I'd be going all out for this game. Obviously, if players are sore, we're not going to pick those players, but I'd be going all out for this game. And judging the luck that we'll have, then if we're one of 4 teams, we've got a I don't know what my maths is like. We've got a 25% chance to draw, or 33% chance to draw Liverpool. So hopefully our odds aren't that great.
You're an accountant now, mate.
If any
33.3.
If any club is going to have to play Liverpool 3 times in 1 month, it'll be Newcastle this season.
It would be
Our luck with cup draws is
nailed on, that, isn't it?
Something else.
It is nailed on.
Like it is a big challenge first though to get through, and Chelsea have not been very good. You keep thinking they're going to come good because they've got so many good players, so it wouldn't be a surprise if we lost comfortably, if we won comfortably. If it was a draw, it wouldn't be. None of that would be a surprise for this game. The lineup for the Man United game didn't look very good on paper, and we absolutely smashed them 3-0. So I know I haven't got a couple of those players. Willock's not there, but for that game, Wilson and Bruno were on the bench, and then brought them on later on as a. Eddie said something about it being a training for him, didn't he? Which was a nice. He didn't mean it that way, but it was quite good to rub that in. But yeah, it's just relentless, isn't it? Are you actually enjoying this, Craig? This amount of football? Because I hate it when Newcastle aren't playing football on weekends because it's my escapism. It's my way of having something that I love watching and that I can get excited about. But at the same time, you kind of want less games because of the injury situation. But what's your take on it, Craig, at the moment?
Well, exactly the same as what you just said there. It is our escapism of the week. And I think all three have worked. I don't think we've missed a game all season. We've all got up at stupid o'clock in the morning to watch the game, win, lose, or draw. We're always getting up for the next one as well. The lack of sleep is killing us, literally. And also, even just the changing of the clocks going back or forward, whichever it is now, that hour's difference makes a huge in terms of the sleep lost. It's absolutely a killer. But I wouldn't change it for the world because we are in the best place in the world here. We are in Queensland. Sorry, Dimi. It's absolutely a joy to watch right now. Yes, it's a killer because of the lack of sleep. Would I change it for the world? Absolutely not. Do you want the players to get fitter and get back to the pitch? Absolutely. So there's got to be a fine balance there. Do we get a winter break like they get in Spain? Probably should introduce one, or maybe introduce the World Cup every 4 years during the league now, because that probably would help us right now as well.
The summer though, or the UK summer, felt so long between May and August. It just because there was no international tournament football as well. So I know we've got the AFL and stuff going on here, but Dimi, you're just awake anyway, aren't you? So you don't mind. You're happy watching.
Just another day. Yeah, just another day. There's another day, another team that I'm watching. But look, more football the better. I mean, we're lucky enough that we can watch every game live here in Australia, and a lot of people in the UK obviously don't get that chance, especially the 3 p.m. games. And when we were playing championship football back in the day in Australia, it wasn't easy to watch the games, or the games weren't on TV. It was only when it was a Sky Sports televised game that were on TV. So I'd have to listen to the games on the radio. So more games that are on doesn't bother me, to be fair, but you've just got to hope the luck turns for us in terms of these injuries, because you could just see Eddie Howe and Tyndall's face when Joelinton went off. They were absolutely ropeable. They're thinking, are you fucking kidding me? There's another bloke going down with a soft tissue injury. But hopefully, as soon as a New Year's resolution all round from the club will be no more injuries, and hopefully it comes true.
Touch words. That's what we need. All right, we'll leave it there. So we will be back for the Chelsea review on Thursday or whenever it is, Wednesday or Thursday. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Dimi. Take it easy, and I'll speak to you soon.
See you lads.
Cheers.